Hello, I am here with Emma from Performance Project at University Settlement. I'm Imani. I am the Communications Programs Manager at FAB NYC. Thank you, Emma, for allowing us to interview you today and for the Performance Project, and participating in Open Arts this year. The point of these interviews is just so people in the neighborhood can better get to know your organization and find out ways that they can participate in the programs that you offer. So if you want to just introduce yourself, the role you play in the organization, and what your organization's mission is.
Okay, so my name is Emma Rivera. The pronouns that I use are she and her. I am the Space and Production Manager for the Performance Project at University Settlement. I guess before talking a little bit more about University Settlement, where it is, I just do want to do an acknowledgement that the organization is located within Lenapehoking, which is the traditional lands of the Lenape people, which also encompasses the Delaware Nation. And as an organization committed to social justice, we really must acknowledge the historic and continued injustices peoples of this land, and we ask ourselves to contemplate what we have built on those injustices and how we should seek to rectify them. But at its core, University Settlement is a nonprofit organization which collaborates with communities in the Lower East Side and Brooklyn to fight poverty and systemic inequality. And the Performance Project at University Settlement is one of the arts programs of this larger organization. And what we do specifically in the Performance Project is support emerging and professional artists who are interested in how to work in live art and how that can help heal and empower and activate communities and individuals. And so we do this through sort of four major programs that we oversee. One is an artist in residence program for professional artists. We have a fellowship program for sort of younger emerging artists. We do a performance intensive with youth, generally about high school age, maybe like early 20s. And we also have what's called our Intergenerational Community Arts Council, which is located in Brooklyn, where we have a couple of organizations working together with that.
Cool. And so you can choose to answer this in whatever way, because I know the Settlement House is very, very big. So maybe you can talk about a little bit how the Performance Project ended up at University Settlement, if you know anything about that.
Well, we are just a program of it, so we didn't necessarily end up. University Settlement as an organization has always supported the arts as it supports the community. And this particular section of University Settlement, the Performance Project, first came into sort of a codified being around 2007 with our first artistic director, Allison Fleminger. She came on board and brought this idea that we could invite in artists and then support artists in the community who would then in turn work with other programs that are part of the University Settlement mission and give more of a voice and a different type of voice to the types of experiences and activities that the community is going through.
Great, awesome. And so you kind of started getting into the programs that you all offer, and I would love if you could kind of basically tell us individually how you can get involved in those programs, and basically what do those programs do?
Well, like I mentioned, we have sort of four basic programs. Right now, we are not necessarily in a position to accept any new applications. It is a time of flux for us as we figure out, of course, just the ability whether we are in place, whether we're remote. And there's always a question of funding, of course.
Right.
If this were more of a calmer year, we would have people who are interested in our artists in residence, which are more for professional artists, slightly more established, who may have more of an idea of where their artistic voice is and how they would like to work within this community setting. So these artists would go through an application process, which actually would be decided among a number of people within the settlement community. So various stakeholders would be, for example, other programs there. So we may invite someone from our adult literacy program or from a project home to take a look at applications and see how this might mesh with certain of their participants. And from that process, we then work with the artists to see where they're at, how they would like to interact with the rest of the community, and how we can support them in that. For example, we had 2 artists in residence, Jia Wen Hu and Jing Dong, part of a company called The Square, who worked with members of our adult literacy program and at our senior center at Allen Street. And they created an online event called A Sample of Immigrant Life, which spoke to experiences about coming to the United States, those individual things that would happen with them and what it's like, and now specifically what it's like to have lived through this particular moment in history as someone who has immigrated to the United States. Let's see, 3 more programs.
I know, right?
We have a number of them. We do have our fellowship program, which is for younger emerging artists, generally between the ages of, say, 18 and 26. And these artists are looking for ways to navigate the world of the New York art community, as it were, but who are also have like a background in working in their own personal communities, and who may have like ideas of personal activism and are trying to explore what more of that is. We additionally have our performance intensive, which is for a couple years younger. This is more for high school students and maybe like just very, very early college, like first year or so. And these are again for community members. They are opportunities for community youth who may not necessarily have an opportunity to delve further into their art. We've recently collaborated with City Lore, which I believe is also another institution in the Lower East Side. And so we're really there, I believe, to help support the idea of arts and youth coming together and helping magnify voices of the future. That said, we also have a program currently based in Brooklyn with the organization BRIC called the Intergenerational Community Arts Council. And this is a neighborhood council of people who live in sort of the Fort Greene, downtown Brooklyn area, who have come together to learn more about what it would be like to create an arts program, what it would be like for community to have a say in the artists within their neighborhood, how those artists can work with them to look at their neighborhood, look at situations in their neighborhood that they may want to address, that they may want to change, that they may want to, say, magnify in some way. And those are all sort of various levels that people can come into and interact with the performance project.
Great. So the two, I guess the two artist tracks, I'll call them that, the fellowship and the emerging choreographer opportunity, is that, do you usually put out a call for applications? Is that like a pretty typical process in how people apply?
Yes, we would usually put out a call for applications. Our timeline is not what it generally would be, but we'll put a call on out. We would ask prior artists in residence to help us put the information out. The call would go out through the university settlement community and through our various organizations. So we want to try to have like a fairly broad reach through our settlement, the various settlement areas that we have, just so that we kind of know and feel that we are welcoming in someone who has an idea of what university settlement is and what we are trying to do in order to help make this world a better place.
Right. For the children's program, is that free? Or is it like a tuition base?
Well, no, actually it is free. The participants actually receive a stipend for being involved. So we do want to set a standard, which is something that we try to do, that art is something that has a worth. Of course, it has a worth as an expression. It has a worth as sometimes an object or thing that comes out, but it has a worth in that this is what you worked on, and this is, because this is work, you do deserve to be compensated for this work. And so, yeah, they do receive a stipend. So all of our tracks, from the artist in residence to the fellowship to the intergenerational council, actually do have a stipend involved with them.
Great. And I don't think we need to get so much into the intergenerational council because you have to be based in Brooklyn for that, right?
For that, yes, it is a neighborhood.
Right. But we do have a Lower East Side version for who anyone's watching, which is in partnership with, it used to be with Performance Project, which is kind of shifted now with Allison leaving. But yes, we do have our own council.
Which is great. Yay. I'm sorry that we don't unfortunately have the capacity any longer.
No, totally.
We're sort of a two-person operation right now.
No, totally understand. But at any rate, it has kind of followed the model of the Brooklyn one, or has it's had a similar vision as to why it was created. So yes, it's so cool to have our own version. Do you, of course, as organizations, we're fighting for our own funding, but do you offer any grants for emerging artists or artists of any sort? Or maybe the settlement, if you know if the settlement as a whole does?
Not that I am aware of. I know specifically the Performance Project itself, our funding is really geared towards the artists that we work specifically with, so we don't have any additional grants. I honestly don't know in terms of the greater university settlement programs, in terms of what might be offered there. But specifically for the Performance Project, we do not.
Great. So I'm kind of familiar with the space. I've been in the physical space a few times. And so I definitely want to get into, space logistics, if people can rent it. But I also was curious for the fellowship, and maybe this is mostly for the choreographic opportunity. Are they then allowed to use the theater space to showcase their work? Like, what is the end result, and what is Performance Project's role in producing their show, if you have one at all?
Yes. So for both the artist in residence and the fellowship, if this were a year that we were not in a pandemic,
Right.
we would generally culminate each of those tracks with a performance at Spire Hall at University Settlement. Our artists in residence are not necessarily always choreographers, but sometimes they are because our space is very well set up for dance. What we offer our artists in residence are, of course, a culminating project. We offer our technical support. The space is fully equipped with theatrical lighting and sound equipment, a very good projector that people like to take advantage.
I definitely have seen a lot of projection in that space.
Yeah, it is. It is a big white space. Everybody
Yeah.
likes to do a lot of projection in it. So we offer that kind of support to that. Of course, there is artistic feedback as well from our artistic director, Baba Israel.
Okay.
So we have that support. For the fellows, our younger cohort, they will culminate their year typically with what's called Flow Fest, which is an arts festival of work that they do. Some people that they invite in as well. It's usually a 3-day event where they produce it, they decide on the content, but we provide the technical know-how and running of it. In addition to, of course, the support of Baba in terms of like feedback as to, you know, artistic questioning of like, how you're feeling with this. We do want them to have as much freedom in creating it as they can, but also with understanding that this is the first time that they are doing this, as much support as possible without impinging on their artistic voices.
Right. Great. So aside from these programs, do you offer any volunteering or internship opportunities?
We have in the past, we do welcome, again, if this were not a year of the pandemic,
Yes.
we
Well,
would
yeah.
welcome people who could come and help us as like say an usher for a show and to see a show. On occasion, we have offered internships. We right before everything shut down, we were at a bit of a turning point because our original artistic director parted ways with the performance project and the settlement to get some very well-deserved time for herself. So we don't necessarily have at this point anything set up for an internship, but it is not something that could not happen in the future.
Gotcha. Great. Good to know. So we're getting to the big section. So this past year has been huge, and we didn't really get into this, but between COVID, racial justice initiatives, racial/social justice initiatives, how have you all navigated or pivoted to fit the time that we're currently in?
Well, as a larger institution, university settlement was considered an essential business and organization. So while we closed down some physical locations, our building at 184 Eldridge, and of course Fire Hall, which is in that building, university settlement remained very active throughout this time period. They were providing meals to our seniors. They did, of course, pivot online to continue to help do support and lessons, say, for our adult literacy, for mental health. University Settlement was still very much active as to what was going on, even if they couldn't be quite as physically present as before.
Right.
For the performance project, again, that was a turn to online events. So our artists in residence, who I mentioned before, who had worked with immigrant stories, they went in an extraordinary way, I feel, from being in person to then being online and supporting that. And we had their event, a sample of immigrant life, in July. We also had our other artists in residence, another duo as well, Ryan Canaro and Celeste Staten, who worked on creating an audio tour of the Atlantic Terminal houses. Initially, it would have been an actual physical tour of the space, but of course we can't do that. So they then turned to taking the stories they had collected from the first residents of this NYCHA housing unit, and then put that into an audio tour, which you can listen to like a podcast online, or if you are in the neighborhood and you are maintaining social distance, you can listen to it at the site of the Atlantic Terminal houses in the Fort Greene area. And if you do want to listen to that, you can find that on our Facebook page, which is the Performance Project at University Settlement. So we have really gone into the realm of online performance and presentation, like the majority of artists organizations have done.
Great. And I forgot to ask you about this. So you have this lovely space, and it's called Spire Hall. Is that what it's called?
Yes, Spire Hall.
Spire Hall.
Yes.
Is that open for rentals, and is that through the Performance Project or through the Settlement House?
Yes, Spire Hall would generally be available for rentals, for performance, for lectures. We've had a variety of events there. We've had like a pop-up, I guess, holiday market. We've had birthday parties there. It would generally be available for rental through the Performance Project, and you would generally email me, and that's information that you can find on our website. And yeah, we will provide as much information as we can when we get it and when we are allowed to by the city and the state as to when we'll be able to actually reopen.
Great. What is the best way for people to keep in contact and keep in touch with you? Is it through your website, your social medias, emailing?
Yeah, really. You can do any of those three. We try to keep everything up to date on our social media as much as possible, simply because the times change so very quickly.
Right.
So it's best to take a look for immediate news about what we're doing on either Facebook, which is again the Performance Project at University Settlement. And we also have an Instagram account, which is Performance Project _US. And for just sort of any basic information about who we are and what we do, definitely do check out our website.
Great. Cool. Are there any last shout outs or programs or things that are coming up that you want us to know about?
We don't have specific dates for it, but we do have 2 other artists in residence who will be doing work online, which we are working on right now. We will have our fellows be doing their Flow Fest online. That's set for sometime in November. And we are doing sort of an informal online salon, artist salon, a share on October 7th at 7 p.m. right now. hopefully it will stay at 7 p.m. If it might be better for artists, it might change to 8. Check out our social media for more information. But you can see a little bit more of who our artists are, what they have to offer, and what we've been up to.
Great, perfect. Did you still want to? I remember vaguely something about screen sharing. Do you still want to do that?
If you'd like to, I made like a little PowerPoint with just some pictures.
Yeah, that would be great. I have allowed you to screen share, so it should.
Okay, it's maybe a little rough, so it may require editing on your portion as I try to get my PowerPoint up. Okay. Okay. Okay, and do you see?
Yep, I see
the
performance. Yeah,
okay.
I see. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. So that's just who we are, some of our wonderful sponsors. Let me see if I can figure out why I can't see my notes. Okay, is it still there?
Yes.
Okay, great. Usually I'm behind the scenes running this and not also narrating it, so maybe a little rough. Okay.
No worries.
So this is our University Settlement building in the Lower East Side, and there are various locations beyond this, but this is 184 Eldridge Street, right on the corner of Eldridge and Rivington. And there is our entrance. We get this question a lot. What was this building before you were here? This building did not exist before we were here. It was built specifically for University Settlement. And
cool.
We've been in there, yeah, since the late 1800s.
Ooh, spooky.
Yeah, but you may also be familiar with some of our other locations. We do have the location at Houston Street, our Houston Street Center on Houston and Bowery, and the Hernandez Senior Center at Allen Street. And if you walk through these doors, you'll actually run into a whole slew of our other programs. We have an early Head Start in there. We have adult literacy classes going on in there. We have our mental health clinic. And it's also where the Creative Center, which is one of the other arts programs of University Settlement, where they have their classes for older adults, and they are just experts in the field of creative aging. So it's a whole lot of people other than just the Performance Project. But if you are looking for the Performance Project, this is where we generally live. This is the interior of Spire Hall. As you can see, it is set up with an array of lighting, sound, and projection equipment. It is a big white space. If you like projections, this is the place to come and use your projections. And it is named for James Spire. I'm going to show a quick picture of him. He was one of the people who helped fund the University Settlement building, and this is a memorial to him in Spire Hall, which is named for him.
Right. He lived a pretty long life.
He did. He actually passed away in 1941 on Halloween. So
yeah,
I was working on Halloween. It was always like a moment to say thank you, James Spire. Okay, and this is a little bit of what it looks like if you're in the space and you are using the projections and the lighting. But we can also give you a better idea of what it looks like by going through some actual visuals of performances. So as part of what we do, I realized I didn't mention it earlier. We do have a series called Share, which are salons. We are doing one online on October 7th, but when we did them in person, they would look like this. And this is where we would invite community members, we would invite our artists in residence, our fellows, other artists associated with us to come and share moments of work that they had, a lot of spoken word, a lot of dance, just a variety of different artistic elements that were presented here. And it was personally one of my favorite series because he just had so many different ideas, so many different people coming on in, and a lot of times it would end in a dance party. So
that's great. Is this the name is escaping me, but I've seen the flyers a few times. It's like the best way to categorize it is like a big dance battle. Is this
yes, we do have that. I'm gonna get to a picture of that down the road, but yes. This is not quite the dance battle. This is an example of one of the work of our artist in residence. Specifically, this is from our former artist in residence, Stephanie Batten-Bland. And you can see here her company of dancers called Company SBB. And they are with some of our youngest participants of University Settlement, our early Head Start. I mentioned before that our artists in residence work with our community at University Settlement. So Stephanie had decided to work with the Early Head Start program. And these students actually were asked to draw what home means to them on these cardboard boxes. And using these boxes, they created and inspired a dance performance called Welcome. It's actually welcome in a couple of different languages. So it's Beyond the New, Welcome, and then a couple of many different languages, all of which are spoken within the University Settlement community. And this was the moment that the dancers were sharing this dance with these young children, just so that they could see what they had inspired. It was really just a wonderful experience all around.
So beautiful.
And a look at our fellows, and the person with the hat and the beard, that is Baba Israel, who is our artistic director. And again, our fellows, younger emerging artists who had an artistic stake and value in their lives, but who are maybe learning more about what it takes to navigate New York as an artist. And it's also a way to bring like a cohort together of artists, because at this point in life, you may know people, say, who work in your field from like college, informally other places, but this would be like also another first time to work in a more professional level with artists of your age, and to see like what the ideas are there, what your commonalities are, what your differences are, that sort of artistic frisson sometimes that you need to really delve into what your practice is. And here is a favorite. We do also support artists who have been in our programs and who want to expand what they're doing. This is from Rounds of Flames, which is a dance event where performers and dancers sort of face off against each other with different forms of street dance. Now, some of the founders of this, Raka James, Hello Dreams, Twice Light, they were our fellows as well in the first year that we had a fellows cohort. And we wanted to support this wonderful idea that they had of creating a dance platform for street dancers, all styles and all cultures to unite and come together in just this very energetic, like skillful, creative, beautiful, like meshing of different dance styles. And it is an experience in and of itself. And yeah, as you can see, the technical skill and artistry is amazing.
I'm sure of it. I've heard stories from Allison. That's why I was like, oh, right, they do such this thing.
And if we could get back in and do it again, we would. I'm just going to show two other quick ones of other artists. This is work from another artist named Nova Black. Presented a work called Somewheres, a World in Progress, which was a series of post-apocalyptic kinetic vignettes, which explore what happens when Black, queer, and trans folks are the last living beings. This is actually the last performance project event that we were able to have before we shut down in March. So this meant a lot that we were able to get this in, and it actually spoke, strangely enough, to the time period that we started entering into.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, it's very eerie, but like, I'm sure powerful.
It was great. Okay. Almost done with the slides, just to show you that the space can be used in a very different way. This is another group of artists. They're called The Hum. It's a collective, and they were working on a play based on experiences with the American healthcare system, and what it's like to be stuck in that system, as you can sort of see with the red lines crisscrossing there, and asking, like, is there a better way to be in terms of the healthcare system that in theory is there to help you get well, but it's difficult to navigate in order to get to where you need to get, which again, unfortunately, we have found in very recent events that a lot of people are not necessarily paying as much attention as they should in the right ways to what healthcare is, what it means to support each other in terms of staying and being healthy. So I thought that was appropriate. But if you want to learn more about us, you can visit us at these various places, and we would be very happy to interact with you, and we would look forward to eventually interacting with you in person once we get to that point.
Well, Emma, thank you so much. That was actually, like, it gives, like, some face and some context to all those things that you were talking about. So I think that was a perfect slideshow to share. Thank you so much for participating. Like I said in the beginning, we really appreciate it. We're pretty close partners with Universally Settlement and the Performance Project. We use the space often for our heroes, which we didn't get to do this year, unfortunately, but hopefully next year. It's a lovely space, very intimate, and we hope to be back there. We appreciate all that you do and are still doing, even through the pandemic and the many obstacles we're all facing.
Thank you. It's been just so great. FAB NYC and Open Arts LES are just, I was so thrilled to know that it was still going on. And your organization has just been, like, very central, I feel, to advocating for artists and arts organizations. So just in and of that by itself is extraordinary. So thank you for that, for this opportunity, and for being such a pillar of like not just the Lower East Side, but also of like the New York City architecture of like what arts is.
Oh, that's really great to hear. That's really awesome. It's you always need a little reassurance in the work that you do. So it's nice to know that we are making a difference. We are doing something out there. Well, thank you again. We really appreciate it, and we hope to talk soon.
Thank you. Take care. Stay
Thank
safe.
you too. You as well, for sure. Bye-bye.
Bye.